Relax and listen to the voice.
Ojai, California. Near a bridge in Ventura County, California, the ghost of Char Man, a hideous, burnt beyond recognition spirit, emerges out of the forest and attacks motorists, especially those brave enough to get out of their cars and yell from the bridge. So popular is his legend in the area that the bridge has been dubbed Char Man Bridge. Possibly a ghost, possibly a hideous monster, Char Man is no longer the man he once was. Now, as seen, he is horribly charred and is rumored to be covered in black, burnt, peeling skin, wearing little more than charred bandages and allegedly emitting a disgusting burnt smell. Char Man used to haunt Signal Street and Shelf Road, but as those areas became more and more populated, the legend migrated to the lesser inhabited area on Creek Road. Part of this story involves stopping your car on the bridge, getting out and yelling, "Help me! Help me!" to which an incensed Char Man will come rampaging out of the forest and begin to try and attack you. As with all good legends, there are three different yet similar origin stories. The first and second both occur due to the fire of 1948. In this first story, a father and son are caught in the fire. Both are horribly burned beyond recognition. The father sadly passes away before help could arrive, with the son later going insane from his injuries and the loss of his father. In this version, by the time that the rescue workers actually arrive, the son has skinned his father of all the burnt flesh and hung his lifeless remains from a nearby tree. The son, of course, eventually escapes into the woods and becomes the Char Man. In the second story, a husband and wife are caught in a fire. The husband, horribly burned and injured, hears his wife trapped by the blaze, yelling, "Help me!" over and over again. The husband, due to the fire and to the injuries that he has sustained, is unable to come to the aid of his wife and lies there, unable to move, listening to her pleas for help as she is slowly consumed by the flames. Again, the husband eventually becomes the Char Man. Supposedly, the Ventura County Historical Museum claims that there were no victims in the fire of 1948, so these two origins already appear to have some potential flaws. And there's yet another similar version floating around the state that Char Man was specifically a firefighter who lost his life fighting that same blaze in 1948. Finally, one last theory takes place in the early 1950s. It relates to a story of a bad automobile fire, with some versions of this same tale placing the fire and the accident on the very same Char Man Bridge. In this tale, the driver is hideously burned beyond recognition, but manages to barely survive, escaping into the nearby woods to become the Char Man. Some police officers claim yet another origin. In the 1960s, there was supposedly an elderly man who had a very bad case of skin cancer. His face and his arm were badly disfigured and deformed. As the man didn't like to be seen, he often took his dog for walks in the evening or late at night. During these strolls, he would occasionally be seen by local youth, who became frightened and were said to have began propagating the Char Man stories. To muddle the tales even more, additionally later, there may even have been a Char Man hoax performed, which adds even more speculation to the veracity of the entire Char Man legend. So, is the Char Man just an elderly man with a tragic case of skin cancer? Was the Char Man always just nothing more than an elaborate hoax? Is he a monster, or possibly the ghost of a victim of the 1948 fire? Whatever he is, the legend of the Char Man has now taken on a life of its own, and just to be on the safe side, Perhaps you should avoid stopping your car on the bridge along Creek Road. Alaska. When you think of a mermaid, a few different images may cross through your mind. Images of kind-hearted, beautiful, half-fish, half-human maidens, or perhaps sirens that may be beautiful, but once they have you in their clutches, they turn to heinous beasts that are ready to kill you. But the Qualupalik is a bit different. The legend of the Qualupalik comes from the Inuit people and their icy Arctic waters. Unlike many other mythical mermaids, there was nothing attractive about the Qualupalik. They are described as aquatic humanoids with scaly, bumpy skin, and they are often depicted as having fins coming out of their heads, backs, and torsos. Their hands, though webbed, are clawed and made for the hunt. The Qualupalik are also rumored to smell like sulfur and wear eider duck clothing. Most hauntingly is what they carry, an amutik. Amutiks are commonly worn by Inuit women to secure their babies to their backs. The Qualupaliks carry amutiks so they can snatch the small Inuit children. Aside from the generalization that these vicious Inuit mermaids live along the shoreline, little can be said about their daily habits or their personal dwellings. The true concern for the people, however, is in what the Qualupalik does when it is on the shore, so perhaps their personal lives have never been of much concern. According to the tales, the Qualupalik lets out an ethereal humming sound unlike that of any other creature that lives along the shore. This humming sound should serve as a warning to anyone and everyone that they must move away from the ocean and get back to safety. Those who disregard the hair-raising hunting call of this creature risk being snatched by its deadly claws and dragged under the icy water. There's not much information that can be found about the Qualupalik on the internet. This is thought to be because Inuit stories were primarily passed on orally from family member to family member and tribe to tribe until the forced integration into the European-American culture, at which point much of the old traditions and legends were left behind or forgotten. It's also possible that the Qualupalik never received a fully fleshed out background because the general description and the short tales served their purpose well enough among their people. Inuit parents warn their children frequently about the dreadful Qualupaliks. One of the warning signs of a Qualupalik is if you are near the shore and you hear a humming noise. The humming is a warning that the Qualupalik is near. The humming is meant to entice curious children to come closer to the edge of the shore so that the Qualupalik can steal the child away. However, the threat does not vanish if you're away from the shore. Sometimes the Qualupalik will knock under the ice, drawing the child nearby to a weak part or a hole in the ice, and then breaking the ice, pulling the child in, and stealing them away. But what do the Qualupalik do with the stolen children? Some say that they eat them, but other legends say that they take them away to a cave and put them under a sleeping spell. Once that is done, they feed on the young, innocent energy to remain immortal. Like many creatures from folklore, the Qualupalik serves a utilitarian purpose in the harsh environment of what is now northern Alaska and Canada. By scaring the children out of wanting to be alone, or by keeping them from going too close to the ice on the shore of the sea, this story may have lowered the chances that a child would venture too near to those dangerous places. Various locations from Massachusetts to Indiana. Pukwudgies are creatures that are similar to fairies, and they appear in legends from multiple Native American tribes from different parts all the way from Massachusetts to Indiana, and these creatures remain an intriguing and mysterious part of the cultures in those lands today. Pukwudgie translates approximately to Little Person of the Wilds. The Wampanoag word Pukwudgie may have descended from a prefix of Bagwaji, meaning wild. The Wampanoag people, who are indigenous to parts of present-day Massachusetts and Rhode Island, speak a dialect of the Algonquian language family. The exact linguistic roots within the Wampanoag language are not well documented in mainstream etymological sources. Some people may call Pukwudgies cryptids, possibly fairies, or just mythological creatures. It's uncertain whether or not ancient Native Americans believed that Pukwudgies were real or merely mythical. Yet more than one person has reported seeing a real one in the natural world, so it might be reasonable to wonder, are Pukwudgies real? The tales of Pukwudgies appear in Lenape and Wampanoag folklore and date back at least 9,000 years, marking them as some of the oldest mythical creatures documented in North America. The mythical origins of Pukwudgies lie in a creation story told by the Wampanoag tribe and some other northeast Algonquin tribes. These little creatures are believed to have originated in a Hockomock swamp in Massachusetts. This area has had a reputation of being home to spirits for millennia, and it's also no coincidence that this is located in Massachusetts' notorious Bridgewater Triangle. People claim to have encountered Pukwudgies across what is now New England, from Massachusetts down to Ohio and Indiana and up into parts of Canada. And according to folklore, there's a good reason why these creatures are so widespread. They were simply thrown there. According to the oral history of some tribes, the Pukwudgies originally tried to live in harmony with Native Americans and even help them. The humans didn't understand or appreciate the help, and the Pukwudgies eventually decided that the humans were ungrateful and not worth helping. The formerly friendly Pukwudgies felt especially spurned by the appreciation that humans had for the creation giant of Cape Cod, Maushop, and after that they began becoming nuisances and pranksters, stealing food, throwing sand in people's eyes, and all sorts of other nasty tricks. The humans in the area then complained to Maushop's wife, Granny Squannet, who relayed their gripes back to the giant himself. Maushop then asked the humans to gather up all the Pukwudgies that they could find in the woods and bring them to him. The humans gladly obliged, and once the Pukwudgies were collected, Maushop flung the captured Pukwudgies across what is now southern New England into the Great Lakes region. Perhaps this story tells us how Pukwudgies possibly ended up all the way into Indiana. In one version of the Pukwudgie mythology, the little creatures returned with a vengeance. After feeling so mistreated and abused, the tricksters turned deadly. Now, instead of pranks, the Pukwudgie began kidnapping children, luring people to their deaths, and burning villages. Maushop once again sent his children to eradicate them. The Pukwudgies are said to have lured them into deep grass and shot them with magic arrows, killing all 5 of Maushop's sons. In some variations of the tale, they may have even killed Maushop or Maushop's wife. Pukwudgies are generally known to be pranksters and nuisances. The little wild man creature hides out in the woods and causes serious trouble for the humans who annoy it. It is said that Pukwudgies may have the ability to become invisible, appear and disappear, and perhaps to even shapeshift. And although they are only small creatures, legends say that Pukwudgies are very dangerous animals. If you are to encounter a Pukwudgie, leave them alone, back away, and leave the area. Pukwudgies are allegedly still quite bitter about their past grievances with humans, and due to this, they can and are willing to cause all sorts of problems if you bother them. It's said that if you leave them alone, at worst, they'll mess around with you a little. But if you upset them, you could be facing serious or fatal injury, as they may have magical abilities, magic arrows, poison arrows, and they've also been known to kidnap people and lure people to their deaths. Reports from people who have seen Pukwudgies describe them as a small, humanoid creature appearing to be half troll and half human. They are allegedly knee-height, or about 2 to 3 feet tall, and they have large ears and noses, so they're often mistaken for dwarves when first spotted. Another characteristic of the Pukwudgie is that they also have smooth gray skin, which makes them appear as if they may be made out of stone. Columbus, Mississippi. The tale of the three-legged lady takes place on a lonely stretch of Nash Road in Columbus, Mississippi. Legend has it that a young girl was kidnapped, murdered, and dismembered. Her body parts were then strewn into the woods nearby. Her mother wandered the woods looking for her, but only found a single leg and hopelessly kept searching for the rest of the body parts. Residents in Columbus have reported seeing her lurking along the road with her third leg in tow. Many drivers have tried to summon her by turning off their headlights and honking their horn 3 times. Some variations of this story claim that there was no lost child, and that the extra leg was removed from a dead lover and then attached to her body. But the overwhelming opinion on this case is that most believe that she's the ghost of a mother who was searching for her dismembered daughter. This seems to be the most common belief from generations of Mississippians in regard to the stretch of Nash Road near Columbus where the lady has been spotted several times. When drivers have tried to summon the three-legged woman, this has supposedly led to her chasing after the car or hitting the vehicle. And when the cars have sped off and the dust is cleared, there are reports that have echoed around town that once the car was stopped, they noticed handprints all over the car. Whether or not any residents have actually ever seen the lady is up for debate, but the three-legged woman has been attributed to causing plenty of car crashes in the area. The Sierra Nevadas. Every now and then, someone sees or runs across a large, vicious, horrid, humanoid creature roaming in the mountains of the Sierra Nevadas. The creature is said to be female, very thin, and at least 7 feet tall, with long arms and long legs, a deformed face, and long, dirty, light-colored hair. This bestial creature is known as Penelope, and she is the subject of urban legends in the area. Park rangers in the area have documented a few strange sightings over the years in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and these encounters have been attributed to this creature, who for some unknown reason is referred to as Penelope. She has been described as wearing no clothes, looking like a bestial giant witch. Rumored to be lightning fast, with razor-sharp claws, she has supposedly disemboweled or decapitated her victims before they even realize that she is there, moving so fast that they have no time to react before she is upon them. Who is she? Where did she come from? No one is sure, but the short version of the urban legend describes her as a woman who became lost in the Sierra Nevada mountains and somehow turned into the flesh-eating monster that terrorizes the region today. Campfire tales in the area have, of course, elaborated on the legend. If you piece together the story, Penelope and her husband, one winter, while driving through the Sierras, were hit by a brutal snowstorm, which caused their car to get swept from the road, down the side of a cliff. Penelope awoke from the crash to discover her decapitated husband's head lying in her lap. Her sanity obviously snapped due to this. Penelope then fled the car into the woods and became lost while surviving in the wilderness. She was somehow able to wander the woods, surviving on some berries, insects, and eventually raw birds and small animals, but was unable to find her way out of the woods and back to civilization. And here's where the story gets even a little bit weirder. Allegedly, as another storm hit, Penelope, searching for shelter, discovered several dumped large metal drums. Toxic waste drums, in fact. Toxic waste having seeped from the drums into the ground and contaminating the surrounding area. Penelope allegedly huddled inside one of these drums for protection from the storm. While inside of the drum, she allegedly passed out and wound up sleeping in the remnants of toxic waste, thus changing her human form as the toxic waste seeped inside of her body. When Penelope woke from her sleep, she crawled out from the metal drum, a bestial, savage, giant monster with a never-ending urge to eat meat. The changes in her body left her now equipped with fangs, claws, and a tangled mess of patchy hair. She began her journey through the Sierra Nevadas looking for prey. Her sanity and most of her humanity now long gone, supposedly she went on a murder spree throughout the area. If you believe the stories, she's responsible for derailing a train and eating its passengers, killing unsuspecting hikers, attacking campers, murdering park rangers, and even attacking a mobile home park where she turned over structures and made off with some of the people who lived there. The last part of this version of the campfire tale wraps up with the FBI being brought in to handle the issue and hiring a posse of bounty hunters to chase after Penelope, eventually cornering her in a canyon. Penelope is said to have been shot several times, but still managed to kill several of her pursuers before finally climbing over a cliff and disappearing over the top of a mountain. And that is a partial story of Penelope. A story formed of urban legends and campfire tales about a giant, vicious killing machine that stalks the wilderness of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Is it true? Is there really a poor woman named Penelope who turned into a giant cannibal as a result of toxic waste dumped out in the woods? We may never know, but still, every now and then, there is a sighting of something horrid, something giant, female, and scary. And although details are sparse and sightings seem to be very rare, park rangers are supposedly aware of her existence and for whatever reason have dubbed her Penelope. From Arkansas. The Ozark Howler is a mysterious creature living deep in the woods of the Ozarks. Its territory extends from southern Missouri to northern Arkansas, and sightings have even been recorded in Oklahoma and Texas. The Ozark Howler, or the Ozark Black Howler, legend has been passed down for generations by locals who have heard things that they could not describe, and have seen things that couldn't be described as an animal that you would expect to find in the heart of the Ozark wilderness. Its frightening sound and eerie appearance has been seen in the more remote parts of the Missourian and Arkansas Ozarks and even further west into Oklahoma and southern Texas. It is typically described as being around the size of a bear, with a thick body, stocky legs, black, shaggy hair, and having prominent horns. Most agree that it is either black or dark in color. Its cry is often described as being a combination of a wolf's howl and an elk's bugle. Skeptics claim that it's an eastern cougar, a black bear, or some kind of wolf or feral hound. Sightings have been officially recorded since the 1950s, though many Ozark families can pass on stories of their parents and grandparents experiencing the chill of seeing the Ozark Howler well before that time. Between 2005 and 2010, the Howler, also known as the Black Howler and the Devil Cat, was spotted several times. A family living north of Van Buren in the Boston Mountains of Crawford County set out trail cams after spotting what they believed was a cougar. The images they supplied to a Fort Smith television station appeared to show a big cat similar to a cougar or a mountain lion. The problem is that wildlife officials maintain there is not a breeding population of cougars left in Arkansas. They do concede that it is possible that there might be individual big cats living up in the mountains, pointing out that they were likely once held as pets, but escaped or were turned loose by their owners. The howl of the Ozark Howler, as you might expect, is the hallmark of this creature. Its sound has been described as very deep and guttural, as well as a high-pitched howl. Others have said that it's the most unearthly scream and also half-human. One of the most common descriptions of the sound is like the screams of a woman. Those who have heard the screams pierce the night never forget the chill that ran up their spine and the feelings of dread that washed over them. Some claim that the sounds are made by animals commonly found in the region. They point to the screams and howls of animals like the red fox, the fisher cat, and even fighting raccoons. Scottish, Irish, Welsh, and English settlers homesteaded the Ozarks Plateau in the mid to late 1800s, and they brought with them their ancestral stories and mythologies. One such story was that of the Pukwudgie, a mythological hound that is feared as a harbinger of death. The settlers believed that the hound would come to bear away the soul of a person to the afterlife, similar to that of the Grim Reaper. The hounds of death went by other names as well, such as the Beanside or the Cooside. According to Scottish folklore, the Pukwudgie is said to be the size of a young bull with the appearance of a wolf. Its fur is shaggy and usually cited as being dark green, though sometimes white. Its tail is described as being long and either coiled up or plaited. Its large paws are described as being the width of a man's hand. The Pukwudgie is thought to make its home in the clefts of the rocks in the highlands and also to roam the moors in the highlands. According to legend, the creature was capable of hunting silently, but would occasionally let out 3 terrifying brays, and only 3 that could be heard for miles by those listening for it, even far out at sea. Those who hear the baying of the Pukwudgie must reach safety by the 3rd bark, or risk being overcome with terror to the point of death. It was also said that the braying was a warning to lock up nursing women, lest the beast abduct them and take them to a fairy mound to supply milk for the children of the beast. In Wales, the creature was associated with migrating geese, supposedly because their honking in the night is reminiscent of barking dogs. Just as with many other mythological creatures and beasts, according to Welsh folklore, the growling and howling is the loudest when they are at a distance, and as they draw nearer, it grows softer and softer, and their coming is generally seen as the harbinger of death. Some people see a connection between the mythologies that came here with the settlers and the ancient stories of the Native Americans who inhabited the region. Natives told stories of saber-toothed tigers that used to roam the land, though they have been gone for thousands of years. Combining the stories of the tigers and the settlers' tales of otherworldly creatures and dogs that scream and carry off the souls of the dead may have just been the origins of the Ozark Howler. From Nevada. The Indian legend goes as follows. Long ago, there was a Native American woman who had 2 children. She took her children down to the river to bathe them, but they were dragged under by the current. When she discovered her children's death, she took them to a burial site to bury them. She cried so hard over her children's grave that it filled with water and then became Pyramid Lake. The woman then laid by the lake to watch her children, and she laid there so long that she turned to stone. To this very day, her babies can be heard in the lake, and they drag unsuspecting victims down to drown them. Located in southern Washoe County, within the Truckee River Basin, Pyramid Lake is a mere 40 miles from Reno, and it's one of the most beautifully spectacular places in Nevada. But don't let this lake's great beauty and grandeur fool you. Despite its splendor, there are plenty of Pyramid Lake legends that are downright creepy. One such is the legend of the ghostly, impish Pyramid Lake water babies who are said to haunt the lake. Aside from the previously read native tale, it is said that for centuries the Paiute would throw unwanted and deformed or premature babies into the lake to dispose of them. Many people claim to have heard the sounds of babies crying or laughing coming up from the lake, even those who are not familiar with the legend. Rumor has it that if you hear the water babies, you will have bad luck, and if you see them, it is sure that you will die. Every spring, some unlucky fisherman disappears, and the bodies are never recovered. Many people blame the disappearance of the fishermen on the sheer depth of the water in Pyramid Lake, while others claim that it's the water babies. As the legend has it, the infants' angry spirits have taken hold of the lake over the past centuries. According to staff members of the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe Museum and Visitor Center, this urban legend began with a family vacation to the California coast. Many people have reported hearing the cries of an invisible baby or the laughter of ghostly children. It is said that the water babies may pull humans down into the water, drown them, and eat their bodies. Many people have reported hearing the cries of an invisible baby or the laughter of ghostly children. From various areas in the southwestern United States of America. A skinwalker is a person and or a creature that possesses the supernatural ability to transform into any animal they desire. In native tales, they're originally a type of harmful witch, but have more recently by society been classified as a creature of the night. The Navajo skinwalker is known as Navlushi, which translated is Navajo for by means of it, he, she, it walks on all fours, and is one of a variety of Navajo witches. It is apparently far more common for men to be skinwalkers, though it is possible for women as well. There are many other horrific tales about things that skinwalkers perform on their victims, such as using a poison powder of corpse dust made from ground infant bones to kill them. Navajo witches, including skinwalkers, represent the antithesis of Navajo cultural values. While community healers and cultural workers are known as medicine men and women, or by other positive nurturing terms in the local indigenous language, witches are seen as evil, performing twisted ceremonies and manipulating magic in a perversion of the good works medicine people traditionally perform. In order to practice their good works, traditional healers learn about both good and evil magic. Most can handle the responsibility, but some people can become corrupt and choose to become witches. Skinwalkers are most frequently seen as coyotes, wolves, foxes, eagles, owls, or crows, and are not creatures to be trusted. Some Navajo believe that skinwalkers have the ability to steal the face of a person, and some believe that if one ever locks eyes with a skinwalker, they can absorb themselves into a person's body, or that one's body might freeze up with fear, allowing a skinwalker to channel that fear to gain the power and energy. A skinwalker can transform into any animal by first wearing a pelt of that animal in order to properly transform into said animal. Similar lore can be found in cultures throughout the world and is often referred to as shapeshifting by anthropologists. Because it is believed that skinwalkers wear the skins of the animal they transform into, it is considered taboo to wear the pelt of any animal. In fact, the Navajo are only known to wear two hides, sheepskin and buckskin, both of which they are only used for ceremonial purposes. The skinwalker's physical appearances often appear to be Native American in origin, with facial features and skin color reminiscent of the Navajo, from which the original legends were first told. They are mildly attractive, but otherwise unremarkable. Their aura, however, is what is most distinct about them. In human form, skinwalkers exhibit typical alien behavior. Quiet, distant, and seemingly uncomfortable in their own skin. They also may appear to be confused or to completely disregard most major known human customs. Primarily detailed in many Native American tales, these entities are sometimes portrayed as either practicing witches or aspects of the trickster deity Coyote or something worse from the shared mythology of many indigenous American peoples. Skinwalkers are considered one of the most fearsome monsters from Native American mythology. In those myths, they have a few extra powers, including telepathy, voice changeling, which is the ability to mimic animal and human sounds and voices, and the creation of poisonous, disease-ridden witch powder, or the magical eye. Some cannot fully shift into their animal forms and have a deformity, which could be displayed as an awkward gait, oversized feet, or animal parts and human parts combined. When these skinwalkers are seen, it is incredibly easy to reveal their true nature. Being very similar to werewolves and other paranormal shape changers, most skinwalkers' abilities are largely powered by dark ritual and the breaking of native taboos, such as cannibalism, incest, and murder, especially when involving family members. It is said that skinwalkers might also be heralded to create these breaks in native taboo. Each tribe's version differs in details. Most skinwalkers are differentiated from their brethren by being able to take multiple shapes, but are not considered free-form shapeshifters. The myths usually describe them as humans who wear only an animal skin or an abomination of human and animal forms. Another legend states that a skinwalker is, or was, a shaman in its human life. As a rite of passage, they kill their entire family to drain and absorb their souls. They can then transform into any animal they desire and any person, although the latter is both very rare and difficult. The skinwalker is said to have the ability to mimic voices that are familiar to a certain person, as a method of luring that person out. Those who have told the tales of their encounters with these evil beings describe a number of ways in which a skinwalker will try to inflict harm. Some describe hearing knocks on the window or banging on the walls. Others have spotted an animal-like figure peering in through a window. According to Navajo skinwalker legend, they are seldom caught. Those who do track a skinwalker and learn of their true identity must pronounce the name of the evil one in full. Once this happens, the Skinwalker will get sick or die for the wrongs that they have inflicted against others. Non-native interpretations of Skinwalker stories typically take the form of partial encounter stories on the road, where the protagonist is temporarily vulnerable, but then escapes from the Skinwalker in a way not traditionally seen in Navajo stories that take place away from home. Sometimes Navajo children take European folk stories and substitute Skinwalkers for the generic killers, as in the killer with the hook for a hand. A native tour guide went on record as having this to say about Skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are humans that change into animals, often wolves. Because of that, they've been lumped into the werewolf category of horror stories and mythology, and the dogman and wolfman category of cryptids by the settlers. Whether a creature is identified as a skinwalker versus a dogman or wolfman just really depends on the state where they're seen. Skinwalkers are known throughout the Southwest, and the size of the local Navajo population. However, Skinwalkers aren't tragic characters turned lupine against their will, as in horror stories. Nor are they some species of evolutionary confusing creature, as in some of the cryptid legends. Skinwalkers simply want to be monsters. In most Navajo stories, Skinwalkers are evil beings, witches basically. Human sorcerers of dark magic who attain their status by committing specific atrocities such as murdering a family member. Their defining characteristic is that they can shapeshift into other creatures such as foxes and coyotes, but mostly they turn into wolves, and unlike other human canines, they can travel via magical doors between worlds, one of which is in the Upper Antelope Canyon in Arizona. In 1987, Skinwalkers became a notion into the wider public consciousness when they were used as a defense in a murder trial in Flagstaff, Arizona. In this case, the body of a 40-year-old Navajo woman named Sarah Saganitzo was found behind the hospital where she worked. A former English professor at Northern Arizona University named George Abney was accused, arrested, and taken to trial. The defense argued that a skinwalker had killed Saganitzo based on the fact that she was Navajo and found with a broken stick across her throat and a clump of graveyard grass near her truck. The defense claimed the two objects were evidence of a skinwalker ritual. Abney was at first found guilty, but then acquitted a year later. Skinwalkers have continued to capture people's imaginations ever since. Of course, we've all heard of Skinwalker Ranch, but in 2021, a clip was released on TikTok that purported to show a strange, skeletal creature jumping from a grassy patch of wilderness. This video has gathered over 6 million views and thousands of comments hypothesizing that the creature was a skinwalker. The skinwalker is an ancient evil. It's a horror story. It's a cryptid. And, as of now, it's a meme. The Skinwalker is a surprisingly versatile monster. We recommend that you stay away from them, but if you want to up your chances of finding one, head to the American Southwest. From New York State. One of the most infamous ghost legends in American history is from upstate New York. A summary of this story goes as follows. In the 1800s, a mother lost her daughter near Lake Ontario and spent the rest of her life looking for her. Even after she died, the woman returned to the lake to continue searching for her long-lost daughter. This legend was the basis for a 1980s award-winning film called The Lady in White. Folklore and local legends are commonplace among small, tight-knit communities throughout the world. While some legends are immensely different, others share a surprising amount of common traits. The Lady in White is one of the latter. the legend of the ghostly apparition of a heartbroken female has similarities to tales relayed from generation to generation in many countries worldwide. In upstate New York, their version has a heartbroken mother named Elisa who is rumored to be searching for her lost daughter. She can allegedly be seen wandering the lakefront of Eastman Durand Park looking for her missing daughter. The story of Elisa, the White Lady of Durand Eastman Park, goes back to the 1800s and revolves around a woman named Elisa who was a farmer's wife who lived in the area. The legend says that Elisa's daughter disappeared, although the story has a couple of different theories about how she disappeared. The daughter's age and the circumstances surrounding her disappearance vary among the different tellings. In the most popular version, the teenage daughter asked if she could go for a walk down to the lake, and as the story goes, she never came home. Eventually, her mother went out to search, but could not find her. In other tellings, the teenage daughter runs away with a lover, but her suitor isn't who she believes he is, and he murders her. And yet in other stories, the teenage daughter meets a horrific end after being abducted by a band of rowdy and violent marauders. In all of these versions, the girl's mother becomes worried and hastens out to find her daughter, which she is unable to do, and thus spends the rest of her life and her afterlife looking for her. Regardless of the version, the White Lady is said to roam the lakefront to this very day, searching still for her missing daughter. She has been known as a more menacing spirit towards men, but appears to women as a sorrowful spirit on her never-ending search for her daughter. From West Virginia. It was almost fully dark on the evening of September 12, 1952. Edward May, Freddie May, Neil Nunley, and Tommy Heyer, all young residents in the town of Flatwoods, were playing on the lawn of the Flatwoods Elementary School. Suddenly, a bright light streaked across the sky overhead and appeared to crash into a hillside on G. Bailey Fisher's farm. The boys ran to see what it was that they saw in the sky. The Mays' home was on their way, so they stopped to tell their mother, Kathleen May, what they had seen. Kathleen then called on National Guardsman Eugene Lemon and the family dog Richie to accompany her and the boys to the crash site. Upon reaching the site of the crash, the group saw a pulsing red light. Lemon shined his flashlight up the hill, and the group witnessed a terrifying sight. A 10-foot-tall creature with a head shaped like a spade and what appeared to be a dark, metal dress. The creature's hands were twisted and clawed, and what seemed to be its eyes glowed an eerie orange color. It appeared to levitate off of the ground. A strange and sickening mist hung in the air all around them. The creature then hissed and glided quickly towards the witnesses, whereupon the group then turned and fled in terror. Some of the members of this group suffered from throat irritation, vomiting, and nausea, which persisted for days. These symptoms were also passed off as the side effects of hysteria, but it's worth noting that these are also telltale signs of exposure to mustard gas. May and Lemon reported the incident to the local authorities, who searched the area that night and claimed to have found nothing. Another sighting of a creature, similar in description to the Flatwoods Monster, was reported by Mrs. Audra Harper not long before the infamous sighting on Fisher's farm. Harper claims to have seen the monster while walking through the woods near her home near the town of Heaters. Heaters is about 5 miles north of Flatwoods. Harper and her friend were walking to a nearby store. The road leading out of their property was implacable, heavily rutted, so they were taking a shortcut through the forest instead of walking the road, which would have increased their trip significantly. About 1/2 of a mile into their trip, they noticed a ball of fire on one of the hills as they were passing. Harper dismissed it, assuming that it was just one of her neighbors who was out fox chasing. When she glanced back, she saw something completely unbelievable. The fire had vanished, and in its place stood the tall, dark silhouette of a man-shaped figure. Terrified by this sight, Harper and her friend ran, escaping among the rocks and boulders strewn around the hillside. The day after the September 12th incident in Flatwoods, another strange sighting occurred near Strange Creek, about 20 miles south of Flatwoods. Reportedly, George and Edith Snitowski and their 18-month-old son were driving through the rural area between Clay and Braxton County on Route 4 when their car suddenly died. Mr. Snitowski attempted to restart the car, but to no avail. It was nighttime, and the road was absolutely deserted. While the Snitowskis were trying to decide what to do, a foul, sulfurous smell filled the air, and their baby began to cry. A strange bright light filled the darkness, and the couple witnessed a 10-foot-tall creature hovering just in front of their car. This description was so similar to that of the original sighting, except the monster was not wearing what was presumed to be its spade-shaped hood. Instead, its head was reportedly reptilian and bony. The creature dragged its lizard-like hand across the hood of the car before drifting away into the woods. As soon as the monster was out of sight, the car was able to be started without incident, and the couple sped away. Snitowski would go on to later give his account to the publication Mail Magazine in July of 1955. All of these stories have become a folktale, creating a fascinating culture in the small towns around the county. An ice cream shop called The Spot opened in Flatwoods, offering a photo op with a painted iteration of the monster. A museum dedicated to the monster story operates in the town of Sutton, a few miles south of Flatwoods. 5 huge chairs, built and painted in the monster's image, have been erected around the county. Although the monster has not been seen since the original incidents in 1952, its impact on the rural community has been huge. Sometimes, if you're standing around outside in the night, you can almost feel it, like the monster left a gift from the stars for us, and we just haven't quite found it yet. Well, alright everyone, that does it for Scary Legends from the U.S.A. Volume 3. We hope that you've enjoyed learning about some of these creatures and legends. Let us know in the comments if you live somewhere where you have a specific legend that we haven't listed yet. We'd love to hear about them. Take care of yourselves out there. Keep coming back, keep listening, and we'll keep providing content for you. Till next time, take care of yourselves, and remember to have sweet dreams.